Welcome to Thriving in the Age of Disruption. In today's episode, Dr. Ramesh dives into the heart of Vietnam's social enterprise movement with Ms. Pham Kieu, the visionary founder and CEO of the Center for Social Initiatives Promotion, CSIP. We explore Ms. Oan's journey as the midwife of social enterprise, from empowering a new wave of social entrepreneurs, fostering innovation to address pressing societal and environmental challenges, to igniting change through sustainable business initiatives. The conversation underscores the vital role of entrepreneurship within social enterprises to drive meaningful impact. We also explore the transformative influence of women leaders in the sector and navigate the delicate balance between profitability and purpose, spanning community-driven initiatives to scalable tech ventures. In embracing crises as catalysts for growth, Ms. Oanh and Dr. Ramesh share with you their personal journeys in overcoming challenges.
Welcome to the Thriving in the Age of Disruption podcast series, Ms. Oanh. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Hello, Dr. Ramesh. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm also the fan of the podcast, so this is my privilege to be here with you. I'm the founder and CEO of the nonprofit organization. It's called CSIP, CSIP. We aim to nurture a new generation of social entrepreneur, social enterprise, and also the impact business in Vietnam. With our mission is to inspire, connect, and empower people and organizations to tackle social or environmental issues in an innovative and sustainable business initiative. So that is our mission. We want to have people address our more pressing issues, not by charity approach, but we use entrepreneurial spirit and skill to address that challenge. So that is why we are here today.
It is so inspiring to hear about the work that you do with CSIP. I think you're called the midwife of social enterprise in Vietnam. How did you get into this space?
A couple of years ago, when I was featured as one of the top 20 most influencing women in 2016, people start to call me as a midwife of social enterprise since 2008 when we started my organization. Our very focused mission is to identify and to nurture the very new, like the growing social enterprise from very early stage and to have them to grow better. At this moment, social enterprise is a very new concept, which introduced the concept of social entrepreneurship and social enterprise in Vietnam. I think that is the reason why people consider me as advisor and also with the role as a nurturer. So maybe the midwife is a fun name for me, right?
So it's really interesting. When I look at my own journey, I started in Hanoi, actually, as the first destination. At that time, I was working with the credit cooperative and the social movement in Singapore, where we worked with credit unions and your Vietnam Women's Union, the credit cooperatives was very active as well. So we had several meetings in Hanoi at that time with the whole idea about how you can give microfinancing to women so that they can start a project, be financially independent, and then be able to take care of the family. How did you get started in this journey? What was the tipping point for you to say, okay, I'm going to go into this area? Or did you just do different things and find yourself here?
Oh, well, I was lucky. I started my development career a long time ago. After the U.S. released embargoes to Vietnam in about the 1990s, there was very few non-profit organizations to operate in Vietnam at that moment. But I was lucky working for the non-profit organization. In 1994, I started my first job as a receptionist at the One Concern International, a small organization to help the people with disability. And after that, I worked for international NGOs and UN agencies as well. So I love my job very much. It is very meaningful and I really passionate about making people happier and have a better life, especially in the very difficult circumstances. Yeah, we have a lot of poor women victims of domestic violence and also human trafficking is a big issue in Vietnam as well. What I found is that most of the social projects, social programs, and social organizations, they are doing excellent job, but they somehow lack financial sustainability. They have to depend a lot on external funding or donation. so that they limited their creativity, they limited their autonomy, and also to the impact to the community because it's a quite project based. It started 2000s. Vietnam started to talk about how we can move out from poverty and to become the lower middle income country. I also see that funding from international aid will dry very soon. So we need to find a way to sustain and continue our good work in the community. In 2005, at that time, I was a project manager in the human trafficking project, and I have a chance to receive one of our donors, Mr. Declan Ryan. Declan is the son of Tony Ryan, and you know that the founder of the Ryanair, and Declan is the CEO of the Ryanair at that moment. The family found venture capital, venture philanthropy. The fund is called the One Foundation in Ireland. Declan and the One Foundation funded for the human trafficking project, and I have a chance to receive some him in Vietnam in 2005. Yeah, so before meeting Declan, I have a very negative imagination about the entrepreneur, about business work. But today I spent with Declan changed my mind and changed my understanding about entrepreneur world so much. Yeah, so one of the moment I kept it in my heart is that when we visit a family with a very young lady who was that escaped from brothel in Cambodia, and we talked with her, and I just saw Declan. He went out and he cried when he writes a letter to his daughter at home and to talk about Vietnam. So that's the moment is the change my mindset and my thinking about the entrepreneur world. And after that, Declan and his family back to Vietnam for several times. We know each other and we appreciate what each other is doing. What I found from Declan and his family is the spirit of entrepreneurial. So the way that he's so visionary, very resourceful and influence and make it happen. So I love that spirit. And I think that, yeah, if we can do it for the social sector, that could be great.
So it was your opportunity to meet Declan that allowed you to change your mind and thinking about entrepreneurship. Actually, I would say you're someone who has an entrepreneurial mindset. And I define an entrepreneurial mindset as someone who is being resourceful. That means they know that there is a problem and they're able to define what the problem is. And the example is really when you started to look at that there was many social programs after 1990, but they were not financially sustainable. And then in 2000, when the Vietnam government made the commitment to move out of poverty and to move its population from lower income to middle income and upper income, that problem even became more urgent to solve.
So that's why Declan and I talk a lot about the social sector. And in 2009, I launched the first program to support social entrepreneurs in Vietnam.
Excellent. The second part is actually about taking risks and to manage uncertainty. And that's what you did because you left a well-paying, secure job to take on projects in the social sector, right? Which is risky and it's new and pioneering work. And the last piece is to create value. A lot of people think that entrepreneurship is about creating only financial value. But actually, the most satisfying and the meaningful aspect of entrepreneurship is to create value for other people, other stakeholders, and non-financial value. What are the kinds of intangible value that social enterprises create?
Yeah, if we compare the success of the social enterprise to the mainstream business, it's like you compare the chicken and the duck. Right? It's not compatible to some extent. Yeah, but of course, social enterprise need to be sustained themselves. We believe that as a social enterprise, to have a very vibrant, feasible, and scalable business model is great. But that is a mechanism for you to achieve the goal. What you care for is about the poverty or about inequality in education or the health equity or any issue like now we have a forest degradation, climate change, or many other social issues as well. As a social enterprise, they are not only measure success in terms of the financial return, but about the change they can make in their society, to how fast they can contribute to solve social or environmental problems. So, for example, social entrepreneur like Koto International, you may know. Yeah.
Yes.
So, with the Koto Jimmy Pham, it's a hybrid model. He provides a free of just training for the hundreds or thousands of the children who could be like street children or children in extremely difficult circumstances. And he also ran restaurant such as a training restaurant. It provides a training, the on-job training opportunity for the kids and also the earning income to cover the expenses for the center. So for the total, the chain is the light of the people, thousands of the children living in the very extremely difficult circumstances. Without the support from Koto, I think that they are still stuck in poverty. They have no education and they don't have a brighter future as they are today. So we are very proud of the Koto and his work. And recently, nowadays, we have a good new generation of the social entrepreneur with social change. One of the example is like platform to provide support for the very small scale retailer who could be the 1,000 million of retailer in every corner in the rural or any corner in the city. The old lady, the women, the single mom, or many the people. You've been in Vietnam, you know that we have, shop and retail everywhere. But they could not compete with the big chains. Ringo is a tech-based company, and they provide solution to help the retailer to do business easier and more profitable. That is a new generation of social entrepreneur who can use the power of technology to address poverty, the inequality in a bigger scale. They are the heroes for me.
Thank you so much for spending the time to illustrate for us what value can be created by social enterprises. Like you said, it's about changing something in society which is currently a problem. It's about serving the underserved. The example of Koto, of how Jimmy was able to see, even if he was just to give free training to the street kids, he had to then make sure that they were employable in the restaurants that he started. To be able to scale a social enterprise before technology was available was all about looking at a model whereby we take the risk on behalf of the beneficiaries who might not all go out and start a restaurant, but to give them the employment. So employment was the first step. And then from employment, when they were successful with the experience and they have saved their own money or they could find other people to support them, they could then become micro entrepreneurs themselves, right? The other example that you called out, how today with the advent of technology, we can actually support the underserved and the underprivileged, especially those who are in the bottom of the pyramid, and highlighting the case study of Vigo. I'm personally interested in this because recently we started an organization called Impact Velocity. And our mandate actually is to look at projects in 3 areas. One is in how can we encourage more people to be concerned about their inner development, to understand that as human beings, we are interrelated and interconnected, and that what we do has an impact on someone else and also on the system. Number 2 is to look at issues around planet renewal. And the last thing is to look at how to serve people who are in the bottom of the pyramid with progress sharing or prosperity sharing projects. It's been a big challenge for us because half the time you end up going to incubators and accelerators where they are regular startup founders and you want them to take on impact projects. Or you have to look for those who are only focusing on impact projects and enterprises. I wish that we could actually marry the two in a more concrete way.
Yeah, that is my dream too. So now we try to talk about the spectrum of the social entrepreneur or social enterprise. I think that the social enterprise is a hybrid model. And it depends on the model, division, the context that they are working. Some could be very social, mission driven, and other is more business driven. But they are all belong to the whole broad spectrum of social enterprise. For me, social enterprise is a business that they use entrepreneurial approach or skill to contribute to address social or environmental issues. When people talk about scalable, there are 2 ways of scale. Someone from more community-based and social-driven model. They say it's a very challenge for them to scale up by themselves to become bigger organization because the market is, like limited, and also the issues addressed is very local, context specific, so it's not easy to scale in terms of the size. But they can replicate. The people can learn from the way they do, and they can replicate that model and adapt to a new local context by themselves. One example is the movement of the sustainable agriculture, organic farming about 10 years ago. That dare to say that, okay, I'm going for the organic or sustainable agriculture business. But so now it's a mushroom you see everywhere. They are not big in the size, but they are many. They can change the whole industry, they change the agriculture, they change the way we are doing agriculture business now. So they play very important role. The small scale sustainable agriculture business, they change the whole industry because they are the farmer working in their own land, and they change the way they do the business. So I think that is a big movement. On another side, who can grow big and scalable, they hope that they can become like social unicorn or whatever, because the technology is available and they're addressing the bigger market. In Vietnam, you see the million of the retailer is a huge market, and they can scale in terms of the size as well. We appreciate both the business of the social business. They play a different role, but they're all important in the ecosystem.
When we look at social enterprise, we need to understand that there could be the two spectrum, because on the one hand, there are people who come from looking at it from social needs, and then there are others who come from it from the business perspective. But so long as they are serving that same underlying social issues, then it's a big win for the society and the community. Another mindset that I feel is very important in the age of disruption is a crisis-ready mindset. I define crisis as a setback or a failure. And usually in a crisis, most people will freeze or they don't know what to do. And what happens generally is that when you can take action, even when you are stuck, that's when you can progress. Can you share from your own personal experience how, when you have met a crisis, you've been able to move forward?
I've been working for over 30 years. Of course, we met a lot of crises in our work. Some crisis is from ourselves. When you grow and you stop there and you stop and see what I'm going. So like that moment is like awakening moment. It happened many times in my lifetime. But for work, I think that some contexts that could be considered as a big crisis, like all of us are affected by COVID-19, for example. But at this moment is the Vietnamese entrepreneur way of thinking, but the crisis is recalling our inner strength. And we become working very hard. Our team, we work online, but we have a meeting every day and everything is going, I think, the more productivity than before COVID-19. And because we see that the urgency and it's a calling for us to put all of energy together. So crisis is not always bad. It's also stimulating our inner strength in a capacity as well. The most difficult crisis for us is when we grow to some, you hit the ceiling. So selling is very tough, very difficult to identify that, okay, we need to break through this comfort zone. We are considered a successful organization and we did some good work, but now everything is changed with the technology, with the AI, and it's more important, our customer knows that there's people we are serving, they are changed so much. So you see the tech-based entrepreneur like Vigo, for example, they're different that they request support from organizations like CCIP. So we need to renovate, to change ourselves. Yeah, so to break through the comfort zone, that is very tough.
And so, like you said, when things get tough, the tough have to get going. And so they bring their inner strength and they look for ways to adapt and pivot. We can also experience a crisis sometimes when we are not learning and growing, and when we are not reviewing what is causing the disruption, right? Sometimes it'll be too late by the time we find out someone else has taken over what we were doing, just because we were not paying attention to the changes that are happening around us. And how do you think people can do that?
I think that is a two way of thinking like this. One way that you be mindful about what's happening to you and to others. And another way is when you are hit by that you are losing the market and you are go behind the movement. If you can be more aware about yourself and about the others, so the better way you keep you going and learning. Yeah, so I think that is very important. And of course, when you know what you want to do, and I believe that thing will happen because as a leader, we have our hidden strength to discover the new source of the energy and resources to really achieve our new goal. But it's important for a leader to adapt and to become aware about the new vision and to clear and be very strong about the change.
Yeah, that's right. Something very interesting that I've observed. Vietnamese people are generally entrepreneurial. That's in their DNA. As an entrepreneurial person, you're resourceful. What is spirituality for you and where are you in your spiritual journey?
It's a very tough question. I think majority of the Vietnamese practice some practice of Buddhism, but we are not consider ourselves as a Buddhist follower. So we are not very religious. So spiritual for me is overlapping with the religion, but it's not exactly the same. We have our body and we have our inner strength physically and also spiritually. For many years, we may ignore the spiritual and more focus on things tangible, like the physical or a material body, and we tend to forget about our spiritual body or spiritual life and thinking it's like the software. So spiritual life make you different than others, not about the body, about the way you behave, believe, the value, and also how you do what you do and mode of the decision in your life.
Yes, that's true. I love the way you described it. There is that physical body and then there is the spiritual body. And we do focus a lot of time and effort in our younger days in that physical body. And then as we grow older and more enlightened, I guess, we start to look at the spiritual body.
Yeah, I hope that it's not too late.
It's never too late.
Yeah, and that's why we are here today. We talk about that. And I hope that the younger people can recognize about the spiritual body or the life earlier than us. Yes.
So true. Actually, talking about young people, what is your advice to young women who aspire to be leaders?
In terms of statistics, you may know that Vietnamese women representative very well in the labor force. There are about 25% of the top leader in the corporate sector. Our Vietnamese women are very strong and we have good status in the society. So to become a woman leader is not something that exceptional. It's becoming more common now, but it's also another challenge for the women leader because we live in the world that is may not really aware about the differences and the strength and weakness of women and men. And so we tend to apply quite a stereotype model as a leader. And they use the same parameter for the women and men. That is dangerous. And I think that as a woman, we have some special issues that could affect our life and work. And I don't think that we should be the same as a woman and man leader. But it's tough. It will take time for people to recognize who we are as a woman leader, what we needed, what to make us special, and what they needed to support us. For example, women tend to have less time for themselves. They have to spend time for work and for family. So they have less time to take care of themselves or to build a stronger network with the college and with others. I see that the men tend to bond up and to get together very easily. But as a woman, we have to consider many things before that, spend time for the socialization. So that is one disadvantage. But also the women tend to be more caring about the people, about the relationship rather than profit only. So people may misunderstanding and think that women leader may not be ambitious as the man. And that's why much less investment in women compared with men when they do fundraising. So they don't believe in the leadership and the growth plan and risk-taking of the women. But that is a very man perspective. That is something we should change, because nowadays the company can grow by many different ways, and not only like the aggressive growth, but they may have a more sustainable and more balance in between the social or business mission. So I think the future business women will play very important role to build a more sustainable economic and the world in the future. But it's because it's closer to the nature of the women.
Oh, wonderful. What is living a simple life for you? And do you think it's possible to do that today?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I know that many of my friends also practicing the simple living. It's possible, but it's not easy. We have to be very aware, very confident about who we are, so we get a very simple life without peer pressure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be aware and be confident of who you are.
Yeah.
And then if I had to ask you to describe what is thriving.
Thriving is about our inner strength to overcome challenge in the life of work, right? So you successfully overcome the challenge and you can get to the next level in both spiritual life or the success that you want to bring to offer to others.
Wonderful. In our work, we talk about sustainability. Most people think sustainability is about the climate crisis, but we say that sustainability actually starts with every single human being, because it is the ongoing thriving of a living system, because we are all interconnected and interrelated. What is the definition that you use for sustainability, and how involved are you in that area?
Sustainability for me is where we are part of the bigger ecosystem. And so in order for us to sustain ourselves as a human being or as an individual, we need to respect the others and to be harmonized living. If we can live that way, I think the world will be more peaceful and more sustainable.
Do you have a favorite book?
Yes, from good to great.
All right. What's your favorite travel destination?
I have many in my mind. I just went to Pham to Tulan Cave, and I love to come back.
And if you can have dinner with anybody in the world, who would it be?
I want to have dinner with Michelle Obama.
Yes, that would be interesting. Yeah. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Oh, I love movies, so I think I watch a lot of movies.
Okay, what is the most unusual food you have ever tried?
Oh, unusual food. I eat a snake. It was scary at the beginning, but the way they cook is delicious.
Which part of Vietnam can you find that?
Oh, yeah, in the north, nearby Hanoi, we have in Lệ Mật village.
And if you can have any superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. I want to have influencing power so we can make people happier and more success.
And what's the best advice that you've ever received?
The tough time never lasts, but tough people do. Yeah. So every day we facing the challenge, but you are strong enough to overcome that.
What is the worst advice you ever received?
You are tricky. Okay. So worst advice, when I received my scholarship to study in Australia many years ago when I was very young and I have a 1 year old kid, one of my senior member in the family advised me to stay home instead of going abroad for the study because family issue.
Yes, I understand. And did you go in the end?
Of course, I have to going abroad. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It's been really my pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being open and candid to share your experience and your journey in life, Ms. Wang.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh. It's also my great pleasure to talk with you today like every friend. I'm not thinking that I'm interviewed by you, but to have a chat with you. And thank you so much, Ramesh, for inviting me and for the very enlightening podcast that you offer to me and to others. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Wonderful. I'm going to come back to you on the email to confirm our appointment. I want to bring a special young man who is actually funding Impact Velocity. I think we can do some work together. We want to see how we can support some of the projects that you are doing and see what more impact we can create in the world.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh. Yes. And talk soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh and Ms. Oanh, for sharing your views on how innovation, entrepreneurship, and impactful leadership can empower us to shape a sustainable future. Let's take a step beyond profits together into a world where impact transcends the bottom line and changes lives for the better.